Tema Talks is brought to you by the Tema Memorial Trust, which is Canada's leading provider of peer support, family assistance, education and training for emergency services, public safety, military personnel, and their families. Check out tema.ca for more information. The views, opinions, and endorsements expressed in each podcast episode are those of the host and the guest alone, and do not necessarily reflect the official position of the Tema Memorial Trust. The subject matter of this podcast may be triggering for some listeners. Please take the time to get yourself in a calm and positive mind space before listening so you can get the most out of the podcast. Okay, cue the music and enjoy this episode of Tema Talks.
Hello, people, and welcome to Tema Talks. First of all, a big thank you to my Tema brother, Enrico Colantoni, for nicely recording that intro for me. So now, even though you have to hear all that boring administrative stuff, at least you can hear it from someone cool, other than me. So thank you for that, brother. All right. I hope you guys have all been well. I've been doing okay. But I struggle too from time to time, so if you have, no worries, you're not alone. You never are. Thank you to everyone who continues to support the podcast. My guest for this episode of the podcast is someone who you may have seen on social media lately. He's making quite a move in the coffee industry in Western Canada. Also a firefighter, and uses his coffee skills to help support first responders. It's Calorado Hudkins, and the company is True Heroes Coffee. I really enjoyed my chat with Calorado. I hope you do too. Let's get to it.
It was a dark and stormy night, nor'easter rolling in.
Welcome to Tema Talks, Colorado. Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, not a problem. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. We're going to get into the reason why you showed up on my radar in a little bit, but before that, and because I don't know you very well, just from what I've read, just tell us a little bit about your origin story, where you grew up, how you grew up, and what led you to get involved with the fire service.
Well, it started a little while back. Ever since I was 6, I wanted to be a firefighter. I have been caught a few times around the ice rink pulling fire alarms and wanting to see the firefighters. And one of my dad's good friends was he was just a regular old firefighter at the time. He's now a chief in Fort McMurray, Alberta.
Okay.
I don't know if he's retired now or not, but yeah, that's kind of where it got started. Fort McMurray, Alberta. That's where I was born. Spent probably the good 9-10 years of my life there. Moved down south, kind of all through Alberta. We ended up in Seattle, Washington, out of all places, a little town just outside.
Okay.
And kind of developed my love of coffee down there. We spent about 10.5 years down there, and that's where I spent most of my teenage years. And obviously, it being Seattle, Washington, their Seattle best coffee is down there. You get a lot of Starbucks and stuff like that. So I got to see the original Starbucks and coffee kind of came onto my radar at about 18. Never really enjoyed it too much. And then throughout the years, I kind of developed a taste for it and kind of became a little bit of a connoisseur. So after I graduated high school, my father decided it was time to move back up to Canada. So him and I truckered on up to Lethbridge, where he first got his job, and him and I both worked 2 jobs so we could make enough money to go back down to Bremerton, Washington, which is a little town we lived in outside of Seattle. And we ended up picking up the rest of our family. I am one sibling. I'm the second youngest out of 5 boys and 1 girl.
Wow.
And it's a big family. Always had big families, especially all my cousins and aunts and uncles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we spent about a year and a half in Lethbridge before I decided I wanted to go to fire school. In 2011 rolled around and I went to fire school in Cranbrook, BC. And throughout my years of hockey and playing sports and stuff growing up with a large family, I've always enjoyed being a part of something bigger than myself. So I've always had the dream of getting into firefighting as in a sense, my new sport. That was my new hobby. That was my new passion. It had always been on my radar for the longest time, and finally I got tied up into it. I spent 6.5 months in Cranbrook, and that's where I got all my training. I got hired and moved up to Grand Prairie. I now work part-time for the County of Grand Prairie Fire Department as they call it a POC, so it's a part-time position, working 12-hour days and nights with a full-time crew. Our schedules are kind of all over the place. They release it online. You open up your shifts. You jump in on a shift that you can work, and you work a 12-hour day on truck and do an array of calls, as you know. So it's kind of busy, and that's kind of where it all comes from.
Now, and you've been part-time there now for about how long?
I think I'm coming up on just a little over 5 years.
Wow, awesome. Now, how busy is your service? How many calls does your service do?
I think our busiest year was about 900 calls.
Wow.
We have outlying stations that are volunteer with full-time captains or full-time chiefs, and we cover a lot of their areas too as mutual aid. So we'll go out to a lot of their areas as well. Some of the calls aren't really written down, but I think our slowest year was about 600.
Wow. Yeah, pretty busy. Now, also in the bio that you sent me, you also mentioned that you always had a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit. Tell me about that, where that came from.
Well, all of my family kind of, even my aunts and uncles kind of had their own little businesses on the side, and they're always, as my dad put it, they're always looking for a better life for their family.
Yeah.
So, side income was a huge thing, and I don't like to say it was in my blood, but it was kind of fed into me. My mom and dad, were in and out of little businesses here and there that, some successful, some not so much. My dad was a plumber by trade. My mom, she worked 2 jobs, just kind of on the side, as well as taking care of 6 kids. So, they've been very, very active in the side hustle, as I like to call it.
Yeah.
They now own 2 pizza shops down in Lethbridge, and my brother and my sister, one of my older brothers and my younger sister, kind of run it, and they all kind of own it together. And we've always kind of had that little bit of a knack for creating a little bit more income on the side and kind of doing something on our own schedule. So that's kind of where that fed into.
Awesome. No, that's great. Now, obviously we're going to get into where that led to, but where did your motivation to want to help first responders navigate their own mental health or mental illness journey, where did that come from?
Well, jumping into the service, even right out of like when I got into fire school, right then and there, I kind of had this weird visual of these volunteers and these full-time staff that were actually teaching us. And you hear some stories, and you kind of witness a few things on the news, and you see, okay, yeah, this is the kind of things that they're experiencing. And as I dug a little deeper into each one of their individual stories, I started to get a grasp on the things that changed them. And I don't like to use change too indefinitely, but it definitely changed the way that they think, the way that they act. And from the time that they started, like a lot of the teachers that I had worked together for many, many years, and you could tell the stories that they would talk about when they first started with each other to the times now. And you can almost see as they not only grow and progress through the service and learn more, but you can see the changes that the job has put on them. And I always say, like, it'll age you really fast if you let it, and it's not always a good thing to let age you. So at that point I was like, how can I help in a way, and how can I avoid this for myself? Like, can I learn from this and take this and kind of become a little bit more resilient in this?
Right.
I knew that there was physical dangers. I knew that, there's the potential of getting hurt and whatnot. And I always fed off that. I always loved that aspect. You're always a little bit of an adrenaline junkie. And don't get me wrong, driving on the fire truck is pretty cool. Like it's part of what makes it neat. So at that point, I was still young at the time, and it never really grew inside of me too much. And it always kind of came back to me in the back of my mind, like, okay, I need to avoid this, I need to avoid that. And I was like, you know what? I think the biggest therapy for me would be able to talk about it and to share, other people's stories in a sense, and kind of learn my own ways of dealing with those things. And I mean, I haven't experienced too much in 5 years, but I have been through other things off the job as well that kind of compiled into the same things and developed that same setup. So that's where it kind of drew from and grew from there into what I'm currently doing now. And it's actually kind of neat because it ties back to the one thing that I'm passionate about, and that's being a part of something bigger than myself. And that's kind of where the fire service came in. And I call it my sport and my hobby because I would do it for free anywhere, and I would run my business on the side. That would be my main income, and I would do it as my sport, and I would still enjoy it to the fullest. So
yeah. Now, Colorado, how do you find the environment in your service and in your community right now, as far as the willingness for people to talk and the support for any firefighters that may be going through some mental health issues? How have you found it?
Well, on a personal end, it's always been good because we are quite a young service, and a lot of the guys are in particular age groups that is very easy to connect. So that's been good on that aspect. Just recently, we brought in the acknowledgement of PTSD in the union, so we're actually pushing more towards taking care of our mental health along with our physical health. That all ties together into one whole. So it's been fairly easy here, and I have a cousin that works out of Edmonton. He says with a place that's already structured and appropriate, he goes, it's weird to hear your stories because we have it here already set up in individual departments. And then as a whole city, they're now starting to recognize it and bring in actual facilities to treat that. So he's like, hearing about you guys grow, it's very neat that you're adopting these things. And that's helped me and a few other people. We've had experiences, actually quite recently that, benefited from us being able to talk so easily. We debrief after just about every call, which is very helpful.
That's awesome. So I know you touched on it, Colorado, a little bit. How have you found your journey so far being in the service, with making sure that you're mentally and physically fit?
Well, it's definitely changed the way I live life. It's made me grow in maturity and physically. I have become a lot more keen on my health, both mentally and physically. I've been hitting the gym way more. I've been eating appropriately, trying to keep my mind sharp. I've been trying to keep my mind distracted off of the things that kind of bring me down and learning how to deal with those. Like I said, I haven't experienced heaps, but I have dug deep in a lot of other people's people that were willing to talk to me and kind of learned how to be a little bit more resilient to those things, so that way I can hopefully have a nice long career.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, do you find, have you already worked in some routines or some things that you do specifically to make sure that you're okay emotionally? Are there things that you do?
Yeah, it actually starts most mornings. I'm up, 4:30. Sometimes I'm up at 5. And it starts with a little bit of deep breathing. I lay there, and I'll just kind of think about the things that I have to do in that day. I'll actually go through my gratitude list and just kind of look at all the things that I'm thankful for.
Oh, nice.
And help calm everything, right? Almost a little bit of a self-meditation. And then I get up and I try and do a little bit of exercise right then and there, or I do some sort of mental work. So I'll read 30 minutes in a book, or I'll listen to a motivational audio or a podcast or any kind of thing to get my mind going, get my blood moving, and get me focused for the day. And that's mainly where it starts. But I'm a big user of music. I listen to music. I play music. I'm a big drummer and guitarist, so I utilize that as my out. Exercise. So I find that as long as you have some, one or two decent habits that you can fall back on every single day that kind of keeps you in the groove, you're more than okay.
Yeah. Now, you talk about, your gratitude work, which is awesome. That's a lot of us, including myself, are just learning how to get into that and do that. How did you find that? How did you figure out that's what you needed to do?
Well, ever since I was young, my father and my grandfather, like I said, they're always looking for that better life. They're always trying to do better for their children.
Yeah.
And they're very, I like to call them wise men. They were my wise men and my go-to, look up to guys.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot from my grandpa. He's always been a very kind man, a gentle man. And he said, you can't focus on the negatives. You always need to focus on the positives because they completely outweigh the negatives. Even in your most rough days, you will always have something that could flip that switch immediately if you will just change the way that you think. So him and my dad kind of geared together one day. We got in a serious conversation and they said, you have to be positive because you're not only doing it for yourself, but you're doing it for the people around you because your negativity will spread and it's like a cancer. It will cross many seas and make people, like, especially with social media now, if you're always negative, people are seeing that every single day. So, not only that, but I have a few mentors, in the business world that have focused a lot on, mental clarity and being focused on your state of mind. And I've learned a lot of that because I've wanted to be successful in business. I've wanted to be successful in firefighting. So I found these mentors online, on TV and books and whatnot and podcasts. And I've learned a lot from them and just started to implement the practices that they teach. And they've served well thus far. I mean, I'm still pretty young and I'm starting a business and I got my career on the go and I finally accomplished my couple goals of being a husband and a father. So like things are coming together because of that. And mainly I just got it from reading a lot. I read everything I could.
That's amazing. That's amazing that you had that, you had those people in your life who laid that foundation. Not only that, but then you recognized the importance of it and actually used it. So, I mean, good on you. That's amazing that the fact that you're starting that off so early in your career and already forming those good habits, that's incredible. That's awesome. I mean, that's just great. Now, obviously this whole thing led to, and the reason why you came on my radar was I see all these things coming out about True Heroes Coffee. So tell me what happened. Tell me how this whole thing came about and how you started True Heroes Coffee.
Wow, it's spreading like wildfire. It was quite surprising, actually, how fast and how far it's going. And I expect it to continue its speed. It surprised me, but being in the fire service, the initial spark was how bad our coffee was. And the biggest thing with lots of departments is the money issue, right? We can't afford to be spending, $15 on a 340 gram bag of coffee. Instead, we'd rather spend $7 on a 3-pound tin that tastes like dirt.
Right.
So I was like, I've always been interested in coffee. I've always been interested in business, and I've always been interested in fire. And how can I take those three things and put them together? Like my mentor said, if you find your passion and you turn it into a business, it's not work. It's enjoyable. It's something you love. So I was like, you know what? I could start selling coffee. And I kind of got into, again, reading. My wife hated it because I was always on my phone at night. Sometimes 1 a.m. and I'm reading.
Right.
And I learned about how to private label products, how to create a product, how to sell the product, mark the product, brand the product. And I kind of went through the certain mindsets you need to have, how to set up accounts, yada, 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 right? So I just kind of went through and I learned as much as I could. I still have so much to learn because I'm starting from the ground up. And I was like, how could I get these guys here at the station better coffee at still a reasonable price?
Right.
And that'll tie into something else I'll tell at the end of this. But, as it went on, it kind of developed and I was like, I could utilize this in many different ways. I could tie this to firefighting in a way that's personal to me because I had many friends in the military down in the States and the military in Canada that have all suffered with mental illness and PTSD. And I've got friends now in the fire service that have suffered with the same thing and are having issues. And I'm seeing it across Canada and across the States, and it's spreading, and they're finally building awareness to it. And I was like, I could totally tie that to the brand. And this isn't meant to sound bad, but it's very good in the business sense because it gives my product a purpose.
Right.
It's good for the numbers in the business sense, and I can help people. I can help people in a huge way because myself, it's the mission behind it is what kind of grew my passion for it. And I was like, I could do something with this that could change, quite a few lives. And now, I don't know if you just recently saw my post, but I've actually opened up a little program, a donation program, allowing all my customers to buy a bag or bags of coffee to be donated to services in town and across Canada, in the sense of giving back and helping them get that better coffee, that better quality product, knowing they're supporting a good cause, a local company, a small family, and multiple services that are doing, taking care of the people that are taking care of us. So that's the big spark in it all.
So for someone like me who's totally dumb when it comes to coffee, I mean, I like coffee, but I don't really know anything about it. Like, how does this work for you? How do you go about getting coffee?
Well, from a business standpoint, I find a supplier, in a sense, a private labeler, as you call it. So anybody that you will see on the shelf in the grocery store is probably purchasing their product from a private label or some sort of supplier, and then putting their brand or logo on it. So my supplier cites the coffee from wherever region in the world that I want to get it from. In my case, it's Peru. He works with a co-op who actually finds the bean, and then he blends it according to my blend and my taste. So these three blends that I do have, my espresso, medium, and my dark, are all according to my taste. Coffee is subjective. Everybody has a different opinion on it, and everybody will have a different taste because it depends on your palate.
Right.
So I found something that I could drink black that was smooth and was a quality product, and I matched it up to a few other different products that I knew were very popular and delicious coffee. So my supplier blends it, and then he packages it, and then he puts my label on that I created. I had a local company build my logo.
Right.
And then another company built the label, and they made it food safe. And then another company delivered the packaging all to the supplier. Then they package it, they seal it, they ship it off to me in a pallet. And then from that point, I take care of all the retail.
Right. So tell me some of the ways you're using this coffee now to help with this issue, this mental health and mental illness with first responders issue.
So, being able to supply a quality product to these people in their personal homes at a discount not only keeps a little bit more money in their pockets for something that they are already purchasing at the grocery store,
right,
but I'm utilizing the ability to create 10 times the amount I would be able to donate out of my own pocket by supplying a product. So now I am teaming up with Tema, as you heard.
Right.
I'm hopefully going to make them their own blend and utilize that blend directly, donating to Tema. Now, the donation percentage will vary as certain sales and costs come into my business, because I still have to cover things and I still have to pay for things. And so right now I've committed to 10% of all sales will go into a donation fund and then utilized as see fit. So if I make a Tema blend, all donations from Tema, all sales that come from that blend will go directly to Tema to be donated anywhere they wish. So if they wanted to donate it to any of their partner foundations or utilize it for advertising and bringing awareness, whatever they wish, that's their choice. And then I'll be donating it to, I would eventually like to get it to the point where I can donate it directly to departments and services and police stations, EMS, hospitals, etc., and build it that way as well. So I'm starting with one direction to kind of get the move going, and then I'll spread from there. And I got many big plans on top of that. There's a facility for PTSD. I don't want to release their name just yet, but they are building a facility. It's 8,900 square foot, and it's dedicated to first responders or anybody that's dealing with PTSD or mental illness. And I'll be donating directly to them, and they potentially might start like a True Heroes Cafe or carry my blend, and then as a retailer, and then I will donate any sales from that directly into their facility, which is actually staffed by most first responders or anybody suffering, and it allows another escape for them in another treatment. So they do like yoga, they do a full-size gym, psychotherapy, physiotherapy, meditation, which they're hoping to launch in May. I might be flying over there for that. So that's kind of cool. And then in Vancouver, the Honor House which is a housing facility for people who are getting treatment for PTSD and mental illness. So hopefully do some fundraising with them and hook them up with a little bit of funds from sales on that end. So it'll not only allow people access to the products to utilize for fundraising, as same as a school would use chocolate bars, but individual departments to use for their foundations and stuff like that, to give to charity and build our community. So I got a lot of big plans on the go. I'm hoping to eventually open up True Heroes cafes dedicated to our first responders all across Canada.
Wow.
But that's the big picture.
Yeah. I mean, how now, as far as I'm sure you had a plan, you sound like someone who has a plan. How's it been going so far according to your plan? Have you met your expectations?
And surpassed 10 times.
Awesome.
I had a goal of just being able to sell a pallet within a year. And I've already sold a pallet. My first pallet I sold within 3 months. And then I'm already gearing up to purchase a third pallet. My second pallet I just purchased is almost sold out. And I'm getting ready to sell more on top of that. So
how much coffee would be on a pallet?
Anywhere from 400 to 500 bags. So I order my pallets in 500 pounds. Okay. I also carry cappuccino powders that come in 2-pound bags and hot chocolates that come in 2-pound bags, and I sell them as well. So it varies on the weight, really.
That's awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to try some. Hopefully I'll get to try some soon. So if anybody listening, Colorado, wants to contact you or wants to order coffee, hopefully, how can they do that? Where can they find you? Well,
we have a True Heroes Coffee Co. page that they can actually search on Facebook, and they can get in touch with me that way. We have a website, which is www.trueheroes.com, that they can actually go there, and they can either email through the website or get through to Facebook on there. They can order on there, or they can order from me on Facebook, and they can get a hold of me in whatever way they wish. I also have my phone number on there. It's actually direct to me, so if they wanted to talk, they can get it right on there.
That's great. Colorado, before I let you go, I'm going to ask you what I ask everybody. So if there's someone listening right now who is struggling, any level of struggling right now listening, what would you say to them?
Well, I would start off by saying don't be afraid to talk. Talk to anyone that has a listening ear. Whether they talk back or not, don't be afraid to talk. Don't be afraid to release what's going on inside, and seek help. Like, it's a big deal, and it's hard to reach out, but the help is there, and you just kind of have to, search for it, because lots of times it being inside you, people can't read that. People don't know what's going on. So you have to, like, I use my spouse quite a bit. We tell stories back and forth. She's an ICU nurse, so she knows exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
Lots of times she'll see the patient that I had dealt with and I brought to her. So it's kind of a neat relationship, and we can kind of get some closure that way. But I'd say just don't be afraid to talk. Don't be afraid to have outlets set up, and come up with a habit. Come up with a good few habits that you do every single day and have your routine, and utilize that as an out.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Colorado, this has been cool. I'm really, I was excited to talk to you to figure out, what exactly it was that you were doing when I saw you popping up over everything. And, I look forward to you getting involved with TEMA, and hopefully I'll get to see you at some events. That's going to be great. And I just thank you for doing what you're doing. Thank you for coming up with this and having that entrepreneurial spirit to make it happen. It's awesome, and I wish you all the best. And if there's ever anything at all that we can do for you, or any events that you have or news that you have that we can put out for you, please let me know, and we'll get right on it. But thank you, brother. Thank you for doing what you're doing.
Yeah, not a problem. I'm pretty stoked to partner up and create a change. I think it's much needed nowadays.
Much needed. We have lots of work to do, brother. But and until I do get to see you or talk to you again, or hopefully I get to taste your coffee soon, take care of yourself and take care of your family. And again, thanks. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, not a problem. Thanks, man.
All right, buddy. Bye-bye.
Now my shift is finally over. I gotta deal with what's mine.
Man, I could really go for some True Heroes coffee right now. I don't know about you. Thanks, Colorado, for taking the time and for coming on the podcast to tell us about your Amazing initiative. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. Thanks everybody again, those of you that share the podcast and are active in leaving feedback. It means a great deal and helps the podcast out a lot. As I've always said, you guys are the executive producers of this podcast. It doesn't work without you. So please keep doing it. I do appreciate it. Remember that we still have the Tema Talks Facebook page contest running. As soon as we get up to 1,000 likes, we're going to give away 5 Tema Talk swag bags. And I think we're still up in the upper 700s, 770, around there. So, still some work to do on that, but we're going to get there. And we need your help to do that. So if you haven't liked the Facebook page yet, please go to it and have a look. And actually, if you go to it and just scroll down a bit, you'll see a video of my best friend Kevin Davison receiving his East Coast Music Award Video of the Year for When Those Sirens Are Gone. I don't know if you know this or not, but the music that you hear at the beginning and end and as segues in the podcast are that song, When Those Sirens Are Gone. If you haven't listened to the whole thing or watched the video, look it up on YouTube, When Those Sirens Are Gone. Congratulations to Kevin. I was there for this, and obviously as I took the video, and it was great. It was great seeing him get this, well-deserved. The video was produced in a partnership with the Tema Conter Memorial Trust. So congrats all around to everybody. Check that out. Check out tema.ca and find out how you can help or how they can help you if you require it. That's about it for me this episode. I hope you guys are all great. Keep on keeping on. If you are struggling, it is going to get better. I can tell you that from personal experience. I struggle, and then I learn that it does get better. I get through it. And you can do that too. Let me know how you're doing. Reach out. Send me messages. Send me emails. However you can do it, I will see it, and I will reply. Okay? Until then, take care of yourself and each other. More love, less judgment.
'Cause we ain't superheroes, we're just ordinary people trying to make a difference and the first on every scene. And it's a heavy, heavy burden to carry all this hurting when you can't unsee the things you've seen. It keeps going on. When those sirens are gone, it keeps going on. When those sirens are gone.